Hello, cheapskaters. I thought, oh my goodness, I've got plenty of time and I'm just fluffing around here as I do. And I looked down and it said 7:30 and I went, ah. So I'm Kath Armstrong, creator of the Cheapskates Club, where our goal is to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. If this is your first time with us, welcome. And if it's not, welcome back. Now, before we get started, if you're not already a subscriber to our channel, now is a great time to click that subscribe button. It's just underneath me because I am waiting to be able to give one lucky subscriber a brand new Sunbeam electronic dehydrator. This is the same model as the one I use and love, and we will be drawing the winner when we reach 5,000 subscribers. So if you're not already subscribed, click that subscribe button, and then if you click the little bell icon next to it, you'll be notified every time we go live or I upload a video. If you have any questions tonight, please remember to put them in capitals so they stand out in the chat. When I go back through the chat, I have been missing questions, not on purpose, but because I skim through really quickly because I have to go back to the beginning. And so you don't get your question answered and you think I don't like you or I can't answer it or I'm avoiding you or whatever. That's not true. I just haven't seen it. And to join live chat tonight, you need to be logged into your YouTube channel or your Gmail account. And that is a YouTube requirement. It is not a Kath requirement. It's not on me. But if you don't have either of those, that's fine. Just put your question in the comments underneath me here, or your comment underneath me here if you like. Now, I won't be able to see it until after the show, unfortunately, but I'll do my best to answer your questions, reply to you as soon as I can. Either if it's not later this evening, it will be tomorrow, hopefully. So, hasn't life become interesting? I guess it has. If it's interesting for me, it must be for you, because we lead a pretty dull life and I'm finding all sorts of things interesting at the moment. I don't watch mainstream news. I haven't for over 2 years. And I've even cut back on the alternative news that I've been watching because, frankly, it's confusing. On top of being worrying, it's confusing. And I have enough to worry about, and I'm confused enough without the drama and the hysterics of all the different news services. I want facts. I can deal with facts. When I have facts, I can plan and I can prepare and I can do those things with confidence. So no mainstream news in our house. But that doesn't mean I'm not aware of what's going on in the world, whether it's my own little world here or my wider world in my community or my state, my country, or the earth as a whole. And I'm still plotting and planning because I'm pretty sure that when the shell grit hits the fan, we will need to be self-reliant and we will need to be self-sufficient, because any help that may be coming our way will be a long time off when we need it. You know, the floods of the last couple of weeks have proven that. People waited days for help, and there are those that are still waiting. And that's no one's fault. Absolutely no one's fault. We cannot control the weather. There are plenty of other things we can control, but we cannot control the weather. And lots of help couldn't move forward simply because the rain didn't stop and it wasn't safe. And you can't risk the rescuers' lives on top of other people's. That's the weather. What we can do though is prepare. One way I prepare is to keep the pantry full. You all know that. I harp on about it just about every week on here and in my newsletters and on my blog and even in the Cheapskates Club website. I harp on about keeping your pantry full. I have done that for years and years and years. And that's a really good thing because a full pantry is food security. It builds resilience. And that's what we need to be, resilient. Now, just recently, a researcher called Chris Ellis released a paper. Now, he's a US researcher. He released a paper defining prepper resilience. He called his paper the Noah virus, who was infected with high resiliency for disaster. I had to stop and think. Catchy title for a research paper. Now, we all know the story of Noah and the Ark, and we've all heard the saying, it wasn't raining when Noah built the Ark, and it wasn't. And it wasn't even raining when Noah and his family went into the Ark and locked it up tight. It didn't rain for 7 days after Noah went into the Ark. And for 7 days, the people taunted him and mocked him and his family and told him he was nuts and he was a lunatic and he was a complete and utter fool. And then it started to rain. And it rained. And it rained. And it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, I'm sure the people of Australia are thinking, it feels like that for them. But it had never rained on the earth before. That was the first time water had ever fallen out of the sky. The people were scared. But Noah wasn't, because he was prepared. He listened to God and he prepared. And he was able to wait in the ark for a year. That's a mighty long time to be stuck on a boat with all those animals. But for a year, he was able to keep not only his family safe and healthy, but all that wildlife too. That, people, is resilience. That is real prepper resilience. Perhaps Noah was the very first prepper. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to be that prepared, but I'm not going to stop preparing. I will keep on preparing. And I do know that I can be prepared for 31 days. And you can too if you want to be. And when I say prepared for 31 days, that's 31 days of no shopping, no leaving the house for anything, not getting anything delivered. You need to be able to survive 31 days without help, without water from the tap, without fuel for transport, without electricity at the flick of a switch. Now, 31 days is just a month. It's not that long. But it can be scary when you think about it. So to be prepared for 31 days of, well, let's call it total isolation, at the very least, you'll need 31 breakfasts, 31 lunches, 31 dinners, and 31 treats. And yes, I said the T word. I said treats. It's been proven time and time again that we humans need treats. We need to think we're getting something special, or it affects our emotional well-being. And if we're already isolated from the rest of our community, if we are our own little island, we need to be as emotionally healthy as possible. So treats, whether it's a biscuit for morning tea or a cake or scone for afternoon tea or jelly and fruit for dessert after dinner, that's important. It could just be popcorn for a snack. That's important. So you need to think about 31 treats too. Now, is your mind spinning? Are you going, oh, can't take all this in, she's dumped this on me and it's too much? Because I have to say, when I first heard the definitions, my mind raced. I was thinking 31 days, 31 days, 31. I was almost hyperventilating thinking about it. And then I realised that 31 days is a month. And we, Wayne and I, have deliberately built our pantry to last us longer than that. I was quite happy with that. But then I started thinking about specific meals. Things like chicken curry, porridge, spaghetti jaffles, the meals that are on our meal plan every month. And I almost started hyperventilating again because I had 93 meals. And 93 meals in the pantry just seems like a lot. So then stopped, thought, a little rational thought there, and thought about our pantry. And I remembered that we really are well stocked. We have 31 breakfasts, 31 lunches, 31 dinners covered. So if you're a bit like me and you were thinking 31 days of meals or 91 meals and 31 snacks and are overwhelmed, stop right now. Just stop. Because it's not overwhelming when you break it down. Let's start with breakfast. It's the first meal of the day, so let's start with it. Do you eat cereal for breakfast? If you have cereal for breakfast, it is easy to calculate how much you need to store because you can check on the box for the servings, the number of servings in each package, and you simply multiply that by how many you need. But if you have eggs or a cooked breakfast, do you know how many eggs you use per person per breakfast? Again, you'll need to multiply to get the number you need for 31 days. And if you need to use your calculator, go right ahead and do it because I would. Some numbers I cannot do in my head. And if you've done that for the eggs, then you'll need to decide how to store them. Will you use fresh eggs or dehydrated eggs, egg powder, egg replacer? Or do you have hens? How will you manage the eggs? Do you have a toast for breakfast? How many slices do you get from a loaf of bread? It used to be fairly standard. Now it depends on whether you have sandwich, medium, thick, the size of the loaf. So you'll need to work that out yourself. Will you need to make bread? If you need to make it, you'll need enough flour, yeast, sugar and salt to make the bread for 31 days. So how do you calculate that? Well, you check your recipes and use your calculator. Now, while I'm talking about bread, I have to say it is filling. It's cheap, it's filling, and it does provide nutrition and calories. And if you're in a sugar it hits the fan situation, you'll probably find you and your family need more calories in a day. Simply because you'll be doing more physical labour. You'll be doing more cleaning. Without power, there won't be a vacuum cleaner. There won't be a dishwasher. There won't be a washing machine. So cooking, laundry, you'll be carting water because it won't be coming out of the tap. You'll be gardening because you need to grow some of your food. You'll be walking to wherever you need to go and so on. So you're going to need more energy in the form of kilojoules or calories to be able to keep that energy up and stay healthy. So good bread could be classed as an essential food item. I think it would be in our house. Now, I know there's some who will disagree, and that's fine. You'll work your way around it. Now, I have to say cold cereals, and back to that and still on breakfast, are a relatively modern breakfast alternative. They're convenient because you just open the packet and pour it in a bowl. And they can be reasonably healthy. They're not all dreadful. You can skip the Fruit Loops and Cocoa Pops and stuff and choose Wheat Bix or muesli. Maybe you could save the Fruit Loops or Cocoa Pops for the weekends and they can be the treat for the day. I used to do that with our kids. They were allowed to have Fruit Loops, Cocoa Pops, or Nutri-Grain on a Saturday morning for breakfast. The rest of the week it was porridge, Wheat Bix, or if I was feeling generous, Riceys. Now, a good thing with dry cereals is that they do have a very long shelf life. They don't need to be refrigerated. As long as you keep them airtight once they're open, they stay reasonably fresh. But if you're not into cereal for breakfast, you might be thinking along the lines of cooked breakfasts, and they could feature on your 31-day meal plan, simply because you want the extra kilojoules. And it could be something like porridge. And you know what? If porridge is cooked properly, it is delicious. Or it could be ground rice porridge. Again, if it's done properly, it's really good. Or semolina, or baked beans on toast, or leftover stew on toast, or grilled cheese, or English muffins and eggs, or want to go all out, even sausages or bacon or steak. Wouldn't that be a treat for breakfast? We don't even have it for dinner. So when you're thinking of breakfast for your 31-day pantry, don't be confined by what most of society or most of the Western world calls breakfast in 2022. Because back before we became sloths and stopped most of the physical effort in our days, the meals were pretty much topsy-turvy. You know, breakfast was hearty, it was cooked, it was hot. It was pretty much what we eat for dinner these days. It was a good solid food. And then lunches were the same. They were filling. They had carbs for energy and lots of protein to keep you going. And then people just had a simple tea. It would be soup, or it might have been, you know, a light meal. And why? Because people back then needed most of their energy early in the day and less of it at night. They were up at dawn, if not earlier, and they were in bed just after dark because they only had daylight to work. And if you needed to be self-sufficient for 31 days, you'd be doing much the same. No power for electricity, so you'd be up before daybreak to be ready to start work as soon as it was light enough. Because it takes a lot longer to do a load of laundry when you don't have an automatic washing machine, or to cook a meal when you don't have a hooked up cooktop or oven and you've got to rely on a camp oven over a fire. And of course, you know, I mentioned the no electric lighting, so you'll be relying on candles or battery operated torches or solar lamps or whatever once it gets dark. And while they're fine and fun for camping, normal day-to-day life for us that we're not used to it, that could be a pain. So it will become normal to go to bed earlier, almost as soon as it's dark. I'm just saying, it's probably what we've got to go to bed early anyway, but you know, the lunches need to be kilojoule dense too, but they can be a bit lighter than breakfast. You can have soups, sandwiches if you have bread and the toppings to go on them, or a pie or a pasty. If you can bake some dried fruit, trail mix, perhaps a slice of cake or a scone or a slice of damper with jam. If you are going to build a 31-day pantry and use it as long-term storage, I suggest that you look for tin soups and stews to put into it. They will be really handy because they're shelf stable and they can be eaten cold. Not so great cold, but they can be eaten cold. They can also be heated in the can. So if you're cooking over a fire, you crack the lid of the can and just pop the can on the edge of the fire, the food will heat in the can. And that's great because it saves on washing up a pot. You don't have to, because remember, tap's not working, there's no water coming out of it. You've got to cart water from wherever. If you can cut down on washing up, that's really good too. But choose soups and stews that are chunky and full of vegetables, not the broth type soups, like not the chicken noodle or the French onion. They're tasty, but there's no substance to them. Try to choose one that's probably probably, a little bit of meat, but mostly full of carrots and potato. But that's fine. It will fill tummies. Harvest brand stews in the tin are good value, and they're often on half price sale, even now when half price sales are rare. They're mostly meat, potato, and carrot with the gravy. But you know what? If you are hungry, they fill a hole. And they can be used as pie fillings, or they can be put over toast or in jaffles. So they're quite good value, and they're shelf stable. Rice and pasta are also good for your 31-day pantry. Now, they're both really versatile. I'm pretty sure I don't need to remind anyone that, because they're easy to cook. And you know what? If you cook them in broth or stock, then the liquid can be used to make soup after you've cooked the rice or the pasta. So no waste. And they can be eaten hot or cold. They can be eaten for breakfast. They can be eaten for lunch. They can be eaten for dinner. Rice is super versatile. You can use it to make fried rice, or you can steam it and use it as a side dish. You can turn it into patties. You can make creamed rice or creamed rice custard if you've got eggs, and have that for breakfast or a dessert. And it's on my forever foods list. So it's going to store a very long, long time. Now, have a drink. Pasta's the same. Pasta can be cooked and have a sauce put over it. You can plan for spag bowl, pasta bakes. You can do pasta salads. You can add pasta to soups and stews to bulk them out. You can make mock fish with pasta. So pasta should be in your 31-day pantry. Now, you're sort of building this pantry so that you can last 31 days in a crisis. So it's not really the time to be worried about the carbs and the kilojoules. Just saying, there's a time for being nitpicky, and there's time to be sensible. Now, on that note, if you are gluten-free, storing gluten-free pasta is common sense. Some other things to keep in your 31-day pantry are flours, plain flour, self-raising flour, and corn flour. They would be the minimum, the three at the bare minimum, because that will cover your baking, your thickening, and batters. Because if things get really bad, you can make apple fritters with batter. You can do zucchini fritters with batter. You can batter just about anything. Add some yeast, then you want sugars. White sugar, molasses, honey, golden syrup. They're all forms of sugar that are handy to have in the pantry, and they can be used for so many different recipes. Tinned fruit is good if you don't think you'll be able to get fresh fruit or you don't grow your own. So it could be, the Aussie favourite, sliced peaches or pear halves or apricots or two fruits. But it could also be plums, tinned plums. It could be pineapple, or if you don't make it already, applesauce is really good to have too. This applesauce makes a great fat substitute in your baking. So if you've got no butter or oil to put into a cake, you can substitute applesauce. Another tinned things to have in your pantry are proteins, meats, and beans. Now, I have home canned chicken and mince in my pantry. But if you don't can your own, you can buy it. You can buy tinned chicken, and it's actually quite good. I know it sounded really weird to me at first, but it's actually not too bad. So you can buy tinned chicken. Tinned fish, tuna, salmon, sardines are all good to have on the pantry shelf, and they're versatile too. Not only are they inexpensive, but they're versatile. If you're really brave, I'm not this brave. I will fess up and say I am not this brave, or maybe I'm not this hungry. You might like to keep a few tins of Spam on the shelf. not a fan of Spam. Or tinned ham or tinned corned beef. They all have a really good long shelf life and they're versatile. There's a lot you can do with them. There really is a lot you can do with them. And tinned corned beef works really, really well in my corned beef pie recipe. It's on the Cheapskates Club website. It's so good. But if you don't have cooked corned beef, tinned corned beef works really, really well in that recipe. And it's cheaper than buying a piece and cooking it if you just want to make the pie. So when you're making up your 31-day pantry, don't forget to include the oil and butter or you'll be reduced to applesauce in your baking. Things like salt and pepper, garlic, cinnamon, those spices and so on, and sauces, tomato, barbecue, mustard, mint, vinegar are all good to have. Mayonnaise, relishes. I have tomato relish and sweet mustard zucchini pickle in the fridge all the time because you need those things because you'll have ingredients and you'll be making them. But if you don't have the condiments and the seasonings for them, they're going to be really bland and really, and you will get sick of them really, really quickly. So, a variety of herbs and spices and different condiments can turn the same ingredients into completely different dishes. Just make sure you include them in your 31-day pantry. And don't forget that tea, coffee, and chocolate should be in your 31-day pantry too. Now, they're not really essential, but they are nice to have. I imagine that in an emergency or an end of the world as we know it scenario, they'd be essential. Simply because, if you are a coffee drinker, you don't want to go cold turkey without it. That causes all sorts of major caffeine withdrawals and that causes headaches and grumpiness, and that's not pleasant. And the same with tea. You get a milder reaction if you go cold turkey on no more tea drinking, but it still happens. So we don't want that. But everybody needs a little comfort. And if a cup of tea or a cup of coffee gives you comfort, or a cup of hot chocolate gives you comfort, add it to your pantry so that you can have it. Now there's one more thing to add to your 31-day pantry. It's pretty much almost the most important thing. We can have all the ingredients we need to last forever, but without water, they will be wasted. We humans can last a long time without food, but 3 days without water. This one bothered me. It still frazzles me a little. Storing enough water for 31 days will take up a bit of space, just a bit. And I was doing some research, and some people say yes, it has to be rotated. Some people say you need to put bleach into it to keep it. Some people say no, it's fine. Other people say properly stored tap water will keep for 25 years or longer. So it really depends on who you believe as to how long. I think that if it were for me, I would be rotating it. But I won't be buying it because buying water is really expensive, and I don't suggest that anyone does that. I do suggest, and I've done it before, that you look at storing at least a few days worth of water, working on the minimum 5 litres per person per day, which means that for our household of 4, that's 20 litres a day. 140 litres a week, 640 litres for the 31 days. That's a lot of water. That is a lot of water. I'm still trying to figure out where I would put it, because water is also very heavy. It's not easy and light to carry, especially if it's in bigger barrels or jugs or whatever. Now we have 200 litres of potable water, drinking water, suitable for drinking, in our camper. So that means I just need to find something to keep the other 440 litres in that we can store somewhere, we can fit somewhere, that we can rotate easily. I know you can buy barrels and drums specifically for storing water, but they're a bit expensive. The advantage is that they are opaque and they're airtight when they're sealed, so the light and the air can't get into them. And that's one of them, from what I've been able to ascertain, that's one of the things that you need to do so that you don't need to rotate water. Now, if you buy water in the 5 litre or 10 litre boxy things from the supermarket, and I have bought those when we've been going camping, they're white. They're sort of opaque, but they still let the light through. And I think they would be fine in the short term, but you'd need to rotate through them regularly. At least once a year, you'd need to swap them out. And then you'd have to wash them out and refill them, because you don't want to be buying them again. That's expensive. You don't want to be buying water. It's really expensive to buy compared to the price we pay for it out of our taps. You can get rain barrels and hook them up to your guttering, go onto tanks. And I have no problem with tank water. Tank water's fine. We've used tank water before and it's fine. In suburbia though, there's sort of rules and regulations, and as this is preparing, you sort of have to obey the rules and regulations, because the shell grit hasn't hit the fan yet, so the council is still there with its rules and regs man going, you can't do this. So that's something to be aware of. Now, we've covered all the things, you pretty much know what to put in your pantry. But this afternoon, while I was getting ready for this show, I thought, someone is going to ask me what sort of meals they could put in a store in a 31-day pantry. Now, that got me thinking. So I went to my pantry, I had a quick look, and I went to the freezer and I had a quick look, and I opened the spice cupboard and I had a quick look, and I made a list of dinners and lunches and breakfasts, that 31 dinners that I could make right now with what is in the pantry. Things like spag bowl, quick rice patties, a chicken casserole. We could do tacos. We could do sausages and veg, curried vegetables and rice. We could do a chicken and vegetable soup. We could do burgers. We can do haystacks, marinated drumsticks. I can make a meat pie. We can do enchiladas, a beef casserole, tuna surprise, fish cakes. I could do rissoles. I could do Mexican meatballs. We could do mock fish and salad. Make a vegetable quiche, or a tomato and onion quiche, or a mushroom quiche. Shepherd's pie, muffin surprise, honey mustard chicken, Tuscan chicken, sweet and sour chicken, honey soy chicken. These were all things that I was looking at the jars of chicken. Corned beef pie that I mentioned before. The recipe for that's over on the Cheapskates Club website. It's so good. You do a pasta bake, meatloaf, Spanish rice, bean chili, nachos. That's 31 different dinners. The secret is most of them use pretty much the same base ingredients. It's just the seasonings and the way they're prepared that's a bit different, that makes them different. Breakfast, well, you've got wheat bix, porridge, ground rice porridge, semolina. You can do creamed rice if you like. Pancakes, boiled egg and soldiers. You can do tin spaghetti on toast. You can do a stew on toast. Muesli or toasted muesli. Stewed fruit and yogurt. Smoothies. Sausage and egg muffins. You can do the sweet fruit muffins like blueberry or apple or banana. Cheese muffins. You can do bacon and egg wraps. Now that's only 15, but that's a pretty good selection for breakfast, and you can rotate through them if you want to. Lunches, well, our lunches are pretty simple anyway. We tend to go for sandwiches or soup or toasties, might be sausage rolls or quesadillas. And if it's soup, it will usually be one I've made. So it might be tomato and lentil, which I really like, tomato and lentil soup and grilled cheese crumpets. Yum. Or a vegetable soup. It could be minestrone. It could be pumpkin soup, chicken noodle soup with some toast, or even sandwiches will be fine. But when we have sandwiches, they're usually things like cheese and tomato or salad. And it will be using the veggies from our garden. So the lettuce, the cucumber, the onion, the tomato, whatever will come, beetroot will all come from our garden. It might just be something like grilled cheese. Lunches are pretty easy. And remember, if you can't leave your house, you're at home for 31 days, it doesn't have to be transportable, because you can come into the kitchen or the dining room to eat it. So it's pretty easy. So coming up with a meal plan for the 31-day pantry isn't difficult. It shouldn't be hard to do. I'm pretty much sure that if you went to your pantry tonight after the show, don't do it now, but after the show, went to your pantry, you would find that you have pretty much enough to create 31 days of meals without having to go to the store. Now, many of you will have more than enough to do that, and that's really good. But I just tonight wanted to focus on being resilient. I know that when there's disasters, natural disasters, whether they be floods or fires or cyclones or earthquakes or whatever, the general rule of thumb is enough being able to look after yourself for 3 days. But I think back to Hurricane Katrina, and help didn't arrive in 3 days. I'm looking at the people, who have lost their homes and their belongings and everything in floods, and help for many of them still hasn't arrived. Okay, so we need to be self-reliant. Now, of course, things happen, but having the ability to care for ourselves at least some of the time is, it gives you confidence. And if you're worried about your 31-day pantry, keep it simple. Keep your breakfast simple and keep your lunches simple. Like I suggested soup and sandwiches because soups are really nutritious. They're easy to make, they're tasty, and your sandwiches can be, simple Vegemite or peanut butter or cheese, or if you feel like it, they can be something slightly more gourmet, but they don't have to be flash, And all those dinners I listed are pretty basic. For us, we would have them with a side of either a salad, or then it would be hot veggies. It could either be potato in some form or rice or pasta, and then a green veggie, which would be broccoli or silver beet or cabbage or cauliflower or zucchini from the garden or freezer, something like that. And then, much to my kids' disgust, I always do a combo of peas, corn, carrots, and green beans. And that will come from the freezer or using the dehydrated pantry stocks I have. I know that everything to make these meals is in our pantry right now, and they pretty much always are, because I buy ingredients. And remember, what do ingredients do? Ingredients give you options. Now, I'm not for 1 minute suggesting that you need to run out and buy up the ingredients for a 31-day pantry. I think because most of you will probably have it already, but I do suggest that you take a good look at the pantry and what you have stockpiled, and grab a pen and a piece of paper and see just how many complete meals you can make from what you have right now. Then if you've got gaps and you have the cash, you can start filling them. And if you can get the food you need for 31 days and the water and the medications if you need them, and the fuel for your car, or the cleaning supplies and the toiletries and so on, you'll be set. You'll have enough for 31 days. And that gives you breathing room, no matter what the crisis is. And you'll know that you are a resilient citizen, able to care for yourself and your family without help from anyone, be it government, NGOs, doesn't matter who, defence, doesn't matter who it is. You will be able to care for yourself and your family for at least 31 days. And that, in these really uncertain times, is just so reassuring. It truly, truly is. I think it's important that we understand, and I know I harp on about this all the time, but we are responsible for ourselves. We cannot rely on anyone else to help us, to bail us out if we get in a pickle. We need to plot and plan and learn and practice so that we can rely on ourselves. And just maybe help someone else that hasn't done the plotting and planning and learning and practicing. That's what I think. So I know my pantry will see us through 31 days, a bit longer. That's my challenge to you for this next week. See if you have a true 31-day pantry. So 31 breakfasts, 31 lunches, 31 dinners, without having to get something delivered in, without having to go to the shops, without swapping or bartering with neighbours or friends for anything else. Just what you have. How many meals do you have in your pantry? Alrighty, now go back to, oh goodness, let me go back there. I clicked, sorry, and I've lost it. All right, okay, so goodness, lots of people with us tonight. I am thinking of the people of Sydney. Oh my goodness. I rang my sister-in-law to make sure everyone was safe. Okay. I love having a meal plan done ahead, Lucinda. So easy. And now we have the magnetic board for the fridge. So every month I scrub out the old one, write on the new one. Oh, so nice. Because I don't get that, what's for tea? What's for tea? What's for tea? A dozen times. It's so good. Only 4. It was half price at Coles last week too. Chocolate. All right. All right. Sorry. NQR, Delaney. NQR had giant tins of cream corn for just $1.50. I didn't see that. They are really good. Do you know what's really good? Creamed corn. Tin of creamed corn. If you make up instant potato with milk till it's sort of a thick, soupy consistency, and put in a tin of creamed corn and some chopped spring onion, that is really, really nice soup. It's really super quick and really nice. I didn't see the tin corn, but NQR has 2 kilo packets of jasmine rice for $3. Now that's $1.50 a kilo, which is sort of getting up there, but rice has gone up in price. So Victorian cheapskaters, if you have an NQR nearby and you use rice, that might be something that you can add to your stockpile. Do I write purchase dates on any of my products? I'm going through my pantry and I've canned tuna, canned veg, etc. have no best before the date. They will have a best before date on them, otherwise they're over 40 years old. There will be a date stamped somewhere on the tin. Now it may have run off. Thing is, it's a best before date. It's not a use by, it's a best before. There's a big difference. And no, to answer your question, no, I don't write dates on them. I do put new stuff at the back, so use the oldest first, but I don't write dates on tins. Tin food will last, it will be good and fit for consumption for years and years and years. Now, it may change colour over time. It may change consistency over time. It may, even if it's something that's heavily spiced, like a casserole or something like that, it may change flavour and the flavours will become stronger, but it will still be edible. It's the quality in terms of appearance and taste that change, not the safety of the food. If the tin is whole, if it's not rusted, if it hasn't blown, if it's not, puffed up or anything, it's fine and it will be fine. As for keeping track of it, it's first in, first out. So new stuff goes to the back and old stuff gets pushed to the front and used first. Simple as that. All right, now. All right. Last January, Aldi had 100-litre water storage containers for $70. Wow, Lucinda, that was a good price. I didn't see those. That was a really good price. Good source if you need water, but again, they are not opaque containers. Keeping the light out is really important. And what I've been doing for water storage this week, knowing this is coming up and knowing water is one of my main concerns. So I've been doing a lot of looking into it and spending a lot of time on the LDS prepper type sites. And the consensus is opaque containers, so dark blue, black, dark green for long-term water storage are important. Yes, you can. We have a 90-litre bladder in our four-wheel drive for water that we just fill off a tap. So they work, but they are quite expensive too. They are not cheap by any means. They are not cheap. So they are refillable, of course, but not cheap. The world needs more Tim Tams. There you go. The world needs more Tim Tams, folks. Hello, give me some truth. Sorry, are you new? If so, welcome. It's nice to have you here. And I bet you're really glad your mum taught your brother and you to be resilient. That's what we want, resilient citizens. It's interesting, isn't it? We need more resilience. Wow. Delaney's NQR still has 1 kilo bags of jasmine rice for $1. They were advertising 2 kilo bags for $3. So go to your NQR and check, folks. Buy it by the kilo. And kilo bags are easier to store. They'll fit better in your freezer for freezing, and you can vacuum seal it. Once it's come out of the freezer, I let it come back to room temperature and condition itself, and then I vacuum seal it for long-term storage. Beverly, it should be a stamp. It might be under the label, but there is definitely a stamp somewhere on the tin. There has to be by law, because it's the it'll give you the batch number, and what else is the batch number? Something else, and the best before date. They're all in a code. Karen's right. She's got 8,000 litres of water in 2 underground tanks. Well done. Yeah, the 2 kilo bags are pink too. I think, is it Sunkist brand? Can't remember. Anyway. So, folks, if you can get a 31-day pantry together, I'm not suggesting anyone keeps a separate stock of 31 days worth of of whatever in there for their pantry, but just knowing that what you have on hand is enough for 31 days. Because often I get asked, how much should I have in my stockpile? How much should I have in my pantry? How big should it be? So if you aim for 31 days, that's a month. Now, we're all pretty clever, so we could stretch it for maybe 6 weeks or 7 weeks or even more if we had to. So it would last even longer. So it's something to think about and perhaps work on, just so you know that you've got the food security. It also means that, if you if you kick the kitchen chair and break your toe and can't get shoes on, and it's on your accelerator foot and it hurts to drive, you don't have to worry about going to the supermarket because you've got enough in the pantry, and you can just keep a track of what you've used to replace it when you do go shopping. Or you might come down with a migraine, or you might, so many things can happen to stop us from being able to shop and get food or cleaning supplies or toiletries or even medications. It doesn't have to be, the zombie apocalypse. I keep coming back to that, or anything else. It could be something really simple that can stop us in our tracks. And if we don't have the food in the house, we don't have enough to see us through, it adds to the stress. It makes the situation so much worse. So much worse. So we like to keep 31 days. That is not a huge stockpile. If you have enough in your house, in your home for 31 days, you are not clearing the shelves and stopping other people from getting what they need. You are not being greedy or selfish. You are not hoarding. It's just common sense. Okay, here we go. So it's a new name. Sometimes for breakfast, you just have overnight oats and you can add fruit yogurt. Yep. I always soak out oats anyway, whether I'm going to cook them or have them raw. I soak them. Even when we go away, I take the little milk pot with me and I measure the oats in and cover them with water and just sit them next to the stove in the camper, ready to either eat. If it's hot, I'll eat them with fruit. If it's cold, I like to warm them up and have them with milk. But I always soak oats for porridge. It makes it creamier, makes them so much creamier, and they're easier to digest. I don't soak them if I'm putting them into rissoles or anything like that. Now, leftover porridge is really good in muffins. I'm going to lose my voice again. So if you make porridge, excuse me, if you make porridge, here it goes, and there's porridge left over, is this going to work? Might be better. Cold porridge left over, beat it into your muffin batter and use it in your muffins. It stops waste, but it just makes the muffin batter go further. So you'll get more out of the recipe. That's what I was trying to say. I was reading a comment at the same time. The incredible shrinking product has been an issue for quite a few years now, because yes, it might look like the price has stayed the same for 2 years, but the actual size of the product has gone down. And blocks of chocolate is a classic example of that. 250 grams to 230 grams to 225 grams to 215 to 200 to 195, and now they're down to 180. and the price has gone up on those. So these things happen. It happens with biscuits too, things like that. Night, Delaney. Hope you sleep well. So all those sorts of things they all have a big impact on our budget. So if you've got, and especially if you're doing a 31-day pantry, not wasting anything is going to be really important, because you want to stretch what you've got. So that's when, remember back I said, if you want to know how much cereal you need, check the box for the serving sizes. That's when you need to actually use portion control. So if a serving is a half a cup, make sure it's a half a cup. Measure it if you have to. Don't eyeball it, measure it, so that you get the right amount. So that you get the right amount from each package. And that means the cost per serving is right. Okay. Silent reflux. I've never heard of that, but now I'm going to Google it. You know that, Glennis, don't you? Jane, my son and his family are currently living with us. During our recent flood event, Bluey and I had to go further south at home. Our town didn't flood, but was cut off by floodwaters. And I bet that your son and his family were perfectly safe and had everything they needed in the house to ride it out. Because I know Jane's a really good preparer. Even if, hi Vicky, even if we okay, we aren't doomsday preppers. We are not doomsday preppers. We don't walk around all doom and gloom and, thinking that we're going to be angry hordes are going to overrun us. And that's not, well, it's not what I think anyway. I just look and I see that prices are going up, things are getting harder, world events are having an effect on oil, on grain, on electronics, on car parts, all sorts of things. And that makes my life hard. I don't want to live a hard life. So I would rather prepare, put the effort in now and prepare so that, well, if things go pear-shaped, when they go pear-shaped, I have the backup. I have the means to maintain my lifestyle. That's what I want to do. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I'm not looking to the end of the world. That's not what I'm about. But I am about ensuring my lifestyle by preparing. So if that means I have to prepare by getting out of debt, that's what we do. We build savings, that's what we do. We build our pantries, that's what we do. That's our insurance. That's our personal insurance that we can do ourselves. And it's an investment that we can make ourselves. And there is nothing, there is no stock, no bond, no real estate that you can invest in that will give you the return of a well-stocked pantry. It just does not exist. Okay. Yep, having a filled pantry means that they didn't miss out on anything. Lots of people do. Now, I know that, Melbourne, the most locked down city in the world for 2 years, we didn't actually really, this is going to sound, this sounds so glib, and I don't mean it to be, but the lockdowns were, from a social aspect, they just about did me in. From the, not being able to shop, not having what we needed, missing out aspect on food or clothes or medicine, did not affect us at all. And the only reason they didn't affect us at all was because I shop ahead, I prepare, I keep the pantry full, I grow a garden. So I had seeds because I'd thought ahead to what was for the next season. So I had seeds. When seeds were in short supply, and some seeds are still hard to get. And have you seen the price of them? Well, I was able to let some of what was in the garden go to seed and save those seeds to replant for the following summer, which I did. So I was able to prepare. We didn't miss out. We didn't change our meals. We didn't, I was still able to do my hair and brush our teeth and clean the house and whatever. I missed face-to-face interaction with friends and family. I really missed that. I missed being able to go away because we like to run away. So I missed that. But in terms of anything else, when other people were saying, I can't get nappies for my baby, or I haven't been able to get cheese for 6 weeks, or, well, I hadn't been able to get cheese for 6 weeks either, but I still had cheese in the fridge because I had actually bought ahead. So from that point of view, lockdown wasn't so hard for us. But it certainly showed me that there could be easily some gaps in my pantry that I need to fill. Fuel is going to be really hard for everyone. They were talking, it was going to hit $2 a litre 2 weeks ago, and it was Friday night, either Thursday or Friday. I was listening to the radio, and they were saying $3 a litre, and I'm like, ooh. The most we've ever paid was $2.63, and that was in Bamaga on Cape York, and that was in 2015. So that was a while ago. So I'd hate to think how much it would cost us on the Cape now. The caramel chips are really, the baking chips are really good in muffins. Oh, and instead of doing chopped chip biscuits, do caramel chip biscuits. Really nice. Yeah, I'm glad things have opened up too, Faith, because that was the hardest part, I think, for a lot of people, was not being able to, the face-to-face interaction with even just family, neighbours, friends. It was really difficult. That was the hard part for so many people. Alrighty, folks, it's 8:38. I have gone over again. I shall leave you, but you've got your challenge for this week. Try and come up with a 31-day pantry. See what you've got, what gaps you would need to fill, because that'll give you an idea. And petrol in Kalgoorlie is over $2 a litre already. You're quite remote. Kalgoorlie is quite remote. That wouldn't bother me, paying it, being so, it's hard, but in the city, no, it's really difficult, I think. Alrighty, have a great week, everyone. Remember, keep calm and keep cheapskating. I shall see you next Tuesday, same time. If you liked our show, I keep forgetting to do this. If you like our show, thumbs up. That helps it shows engagement to YouTube, and that means they keep promoting us and pushing us up and up and up, and that's really good. If you haven't already subscribed, please do, because I can't wait to get rid of that dehydrator. What else? Any questions that are in the comments below me, because I can't see them just yet. I will answer them as I can. Have a really good week. See you next Tuesday.